Alright, I hope you guys are doing well. Today, I'm going to be talking about Jean Baudrillard's simulacra and simulation. So Jean Baudrillard was a postmodernist. He's kind of considered a post-structuralist. Postmodernism typically being associated with lacking of meta-narratives, so lacking of universal truths and identities and things like that. A lot of it has to do with existing culture, so kind of post-enlightenment, kind of a step out of rationality, a step out of reason, a step out of logical abstract thinking, and more concrete ideas, especially within institutions and governments, and is often criticizing aspects of the Enlightenment period. Baudrillard is no exception. Baudrillard, especially in Simulacra and Simulation, is actively criticizing things within the Enlightenment period and people who have grandiose ideas of truth, of what truth is, right? So let's take, for example, Hegel, which I think eventually I'll do my own video on Hegel as well. But Hegel believes in this thing called the absolute spirit, right? It is this thing that is binding all human endeavors of consciousness, right? That consciousness develops over time. And as consciousness develops, these ideas will improve and improve and improve until we find the right set of ideas to believe. And then once we have those right set of ideas, we will be able to, do the right thing, right? Like absolute spirit will encompass everything, and that'll be the truth. That'll be the thing that we're supposed to follow, right? That is the ultimate thing. Hegel actually said that he figured out what the Enlightenment was, and the Enlightenment was this idea of reason and rationality coming to full fruition in human consciousness. And once it's able to transcend through reason, through rationality, which is what spirit is, then everyone will have the truest set of what freedom is. Freedom will be finally actualized and realized in the physical and spiritual element, or mental elements. Baudrillard rejects all of that, and actually says that that is a part of this simulated universe, of the stripping of reality itself, which he says even that there really is no reality. In the first page of Simulation and Simulacra, it says that the simulacrum is never what hides the truth. It is truth that hides the fact that there is none. The simulacrum is true. So it's saying that the simulation of there being truth, it is the fact that it hides the fact that there is none. So it is the perpetuation of believing that there is some truth, believing that there's something at the end of this human rat race, that eventually we will find the right set of values and the right set of meta-narratives, and that finally societies will be harmonious together, and that there will be no more struggles, and no more nihilism, and no more pessimism, and no more death, and no more wars, and no more diseases, and no more poverty. He believes that that's just not true, that that is an integral part of humanity. Baudrillard says that if anything is real, that it is war, that war is the realest thing in societies, right? He wrote a chapter on nihilism. The universe and all of us have entered life into simulation, into the malefic, not even malefic, indifferent sphere of determinants. In a bizarre fashion, nihilism has been entirely realized no longer through destruction, but through simulation and deterrence. From the active, violent phantasm, from the phantasm of the myth and the stage that it also was, historically it has passed into the transparent, falsely transparent operation of things. What then remains of a possible nihilism in theory? What new scene can unfold where nothing in death could be replayed as a challenge, as a stake? We are in a new and without a doubt insolvable position in relation to prior forms of nihilism. So, there's not, basically what he's meaning is that there is not a way of being able to combat the trials of nihilism. That the trials of nihilism, he also says further in the passage, that it was attempts of surrealism, it was attempts of romanticism, it was attempts of trying to delay the inevitable of what nihilism is, and now, which is a hyper-real reality of the simulation. But through that, then you are creating a hyper-real reality of what nihilism is. So the thing of truth and truth in itself is now becoming merely an artifact, merely an icon. You can think of it as within religiosity, that the archetypal manifestation of God is supposed to be the icon. You're supposed to follow God as the icon, as the inhibitor of truth. He's creating truth. He is the truth, right? And it is a form of idolatry when you are, like, for example, let's say if I worshipped, this is a stupid example, let's say if I worshipped the book of the Plague of Albert Camus, right? Or I worshipped, would be a better example, or like my video game set, right? Like I have an Oculus right there, I have my TV, let's say I have icons of those, which I kind of do. I worship those things, right? So the idol in my life is becoming my God, right? And so instead of there being an actual God that I am worshiping, that I love, that I care for, I am worshiping a creation, right? I am saying that this is the thing that has the most amount of value. An inanimate object is what is guiding me to exist, right? It is something that is lacking of an essence, that is lacking of really of more of a multi-purposeful existence, a multi-purposeful purpose. It is one-dimensional, or maybe polydimensional, but not in the sense of an all-encompassing God, of a God that is everything, and so would be more, at least worthy in some sense, of being the center of my idolatry, because it wouldn't be idolatry within God. And so what Baudrillard says in some regard also is that the hyper reality of there then being, or believing that there is no God, is that you just create it merely out of icons. Jordan Peterson also said a very similar point, where that the thing that has the highest order in your head, the thing that you believe has the most set of value, is ultimately your God, is your purpose, is your reason of getting out of bed in the morning, right? And Baudrillard says that all of it is merely useless, is just the mind trying to create icons and more simulations in order to create a reality that it believes is more tolerable. Simulacra and Simulation was written in 1981, and I believe that the first Matrix movie was made in 1999. And the writer, or the creator of the Matrix, puts Simulacra and Simulation, John Baudrillard's book, in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And in that movie, obviously, it's not a perfect representation, and even Baudrillard had a lot of critiques and criticisms of the movie itself, because it is a representation. It is exactly what Baudrillard is saying. Movies are representations. Movies are representations of a reality, right? They might not be as detrimental of a simulacra and simulation, because they are still trying to hold some type of tether to what would seem as of a reality, because it's, especially with Baudrillard, it is almost virtually impossible to separate the simulation from a possible reality. That how we create things in our minds, ultimately, we can't understand just how much of it is actually just programming within a created simulacra universe that we are creating within our own heads, within our own minds, our own biases, our own negligence, our feeble intellects, our, the way that we are unable to perceive things on a deeper level. When we think we have found truth, there is then another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and another layer, which is kind of the problem within the Matrix movies themselves, right? The questioning of whether or not it's even still real, of being in the real world, and whether or not it's even better. Should I just then reprogram and replug myself into the simulated world, the simulated universe? Agent Smith in I believe it's the third movie in, is it Revolution or something like that? Revelation? I don't know. He gives a monologue, Agent Smith, and he says, "Why do you do it, Mr. Anderson? Why do you persist? Is it for truth? Is it for freedom? Is it for love? Is it for any of these things? These are feeble constructs of a feeble intellect. There is no purpose. Why are you doing this? Why? It's pointless. You must know that it's pointless. And why do you keep fighting?" And he says, "Because I choose to." And that is that is as real as the reality can possibly get, is that it is crap. This world is maybe just a simulated universe, and maybe I'm only thinking purely still within the simulation, but I am at least choosing, right? Sure, it might be a predetermined will. Sure, it might not be fully my choice of what I'm doing, but I'm going against every odd in order to believe that that I'm doing something of my own accord, right? The result might be the same. The result is probably going to be the same whether or not I choose to do something or I don't. But you are still choosing. You're still choosing to do something, to try to brush my teeth, go to the gym, read, write, interact with people, have discussions, have conversations. These are things that can help bear the weight of existence, because it is hard. It's hard to exist, and especially with a nihilistic perspective, like Baudrillard has. But he also does say that nihilism, that he's happy that this is how it is, and it couldn't be possibly any other way. I'll read a little bit more. There is no longer a stage, not even the minimal illusion, that makes events capable of adopting the force of reality. No more stage either of mental or political solidarity. What do Chile, Bifra, the boat people, or Poland matter? All of that comes to be annihilated on a television screen. We are in the era of events without consequences and of theories without consequences. There is no more hope for meaning, and without a doubt, this is a good thing. Meaning is mortal, but that on which it has imposed its ephemeral reign, and what it hopes to liquidate in order to impose the reign of the Enlightenment, that is, appearances. They are immortal, invulnerable to the nihilism of meaning, or of non-meaning itself. This is where seduction begins. So, these meanings, that appearances, they are immortal, right? But with nihilism, you are taking away the things of meaning, and meaning as a thing is supposed to be of an immortal, immaterial sort of thing, and it's kind of supposed to humble you into the cruelness of reality often. To lose these perceptions and these sensory sort of things that we have developed within the Enlightenment, within rationalism and empiricism, within even romanticism, within these feeble attempts to try to rationalize our world and make it understandable, and bending the world into how it's supposed to be. This is what it should be, right? That's being flipped, because in turn of trying to make it be a specific way, you're actually adopting a simulation. You are creating a simulation. You are creating a reality that you would prefer to live in, that would seem better when it's not, when it's actually more dangerous, when it's more depressing, and it will eventually lead you into a worse place. It creates hysteria. It creates problems in the news media. It creates problems of just normal everyday discussions. Well, the CNN said it, so it's true. MSNBC said it, so it's true. Fox said it, so it's true. Believing that these people are arbiters of truth, that they know something, that they know factual statement of exactly what something is. And it creates echo chambers to have people specifically saying that this is exactly what something is. And of course, it's paradoxical, because you're always going to, if you're trying to make a definitive statement about a subjective claim, then you are creating an objective claim about a subjective subject, and making that definitive, right? So saying that all things are relative means that you are saying that at least that is true, that all things are relative, right? It's not that Baudrillard is purely a relativist, though he is, in some regards at least, of the rejection of most meta-narratives, considering that he was birthed out of the eras of World War II, and, those are the wars of ideologies, and that creation of a simulated sort of universe between the Nazis and the communist and the socialist and the liberals themselves, of the illusion of a free market economy, or the illusion of a command economy, or the illusion of a Nazi Aryan blood race that is having a spiritual war between Jewish and Aryan people in a battle for the end of the world, right? That these are simulated factors that create a hive mind psychosis of, hundreds of, maybe, thousands or millions of people, all for it to be torn down, and then something else builds on it, and then torn down, and then something else builds on it, and builds on it, and builds on it. So you have all of these confronting, simulated universes that are combining each other within different periods of, like the Renaissance, or the Enlightenment, or the Industrial Revolution, and agricultural production, stuff like that. All of these simulated ways of looking at the world are becoming reality, and we don't even know if it is true or if it's not, if this is the right way to do something or if it is the wrong way to do something, because it's not able to be separated. And it's not exactly that Baudrillard gives us an example of like how to deal with this, other than to kind of a Schopenhauer way of removing attachment, really, and being together. I'll leave with another passage. Where nothing is in its place lies disorder, where in the desired place there is nothing lies order. Panic on the part of university administrators at the idea that diplomas will be awarded without a real work counterpart, without an equivalence in knowledge. This panic is not that of political subversion, it is that of seeing value become dissociated from its contents and begin to function alone according to its very form. The value of the university, diplomas, etc., will proliferate and continue to circulate a bit like floating capital or euro dollars. They will spiral without referential criteria, completely devalorized in the end, for that is unimportant. Their circulation alone is enough to create a social horizon of value, and the ghostly presence of the phantom value will only be greater, even when its reference point, its use value, its exchange value, the academic workforce that the university recoups is lost. Terror of value without equivalence. Terror of value without equivalence. I'm currently in school right now. I go to community college, and I want to be a professor, right? I want to teach people. I want to be able to educate people. I want to be a political philosopher, I guess, is mainly what I would like to study. And when universities are treating students as if they are going to be corporate entities for the market, right? It's not merely of caring about education, saying that you care about education, that you care about ideas and concepts and ways of improving society. That's all fine and dandy. Maybe that was the original intention, and it was in a lot of countries, especially, you would hope, within a democratic system, that we're able to bounce off ideas of highly educated people in order to come to an agreement of exactly what ideas should be sought after: tolerance and freedom, justice and liberty. But within institutions right now, within universities especially, it is a setup into developing hopefully a good job in having reputable capital in the market, right? Resources, making sure you have research and patents and doctorate dissertations and, a name and weight behind you that you can't even fulfill. that is an illusion. That is the simulation working at its best. You have a general utility that you want to create of helping individuals within education and making sure that people are informed and not leading into the world with ignorance or arrogance. But instead, it is repackaged and refurbished and given to young people to tell them that, hey, get a good job, get a good education, maybe actually go into the institutions themselves that gave you the bachelor's degree or the master's or the doctorate, the associates, and continuously work in it until you are dead. And that is your purpose. That is, your purpose was to keep the machine running, right? Keep the machine going. So, all I can say is to develop a connection with nature, develop a connection with the earth, and trying to understand the thoughts of yourself, and maybe to untangle aspects of simulation, if you can identify what the aspects of the simulation are. But life is a simulation, which is a good and bad thing, because of course the bad is, well, it promotes an aspect of determinism, but again, back to the Matrix, is you do get to choose. You do get to choose to, I'm going to go on a walk right now, and I'm going to have a good walk, and I'm going to look at the stars, and I'm going to listen to my music, and I'm going to enjoy that before I go to school tomorrow. I choose to enjoy, despite everything, and we can choose to enjoy things despite everything. Maybe create a simulation of peace and of love and of tolerance. Maybe that is naive, and that is probably not exactly what Baudrillard would say, but that's okay. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. But thank you for enjoying the rant, and I hope you guys have a good day. All right, bye-bye.